She's my crypto queen. She knows the scene. Turning zeros into heroes, it's my digital dream. We check the charts, those candles are green. Leverage it up, stacking it up, now my back's obscene. Yes, I've done buy some meme coins. Got rug pulled once or twice. I spent too much money. Crypto took over my life. I must confess, monetary distress. I need more dry powder so I can stack up on these treasure chests. This bull run, we gon' live like kings. But for right now, it's going on a credit card. Oh no, no. Yeah, we about to make wife changing money. Been in the game since 2018. We were scrubs, now we 18. Wrist loaded with the bling, bling, bling. Pulling more hoes than my boy Charlie Sheen. Got BNB at $4, Solana $2. When P dot peg $1. We was po, now we the borrower. Wife changing money. Hey, drop that beat, dog. Wife, changing money, changing my life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm back again. Another One Pulse show with Larry and Taurus. And I'm Taurus.
I'm Larry.
And we actually got a special guest in today. Some of you guys might know him. Been around for a while. Gonna talk to us about what he has going on. PulseChain. We'll get into it. Let's give a warm welcome to Mati ALLin.
Howdy.
How's it going?
Life is good. Man, what an exciting week in PulseChain crypto.
Yeah. See there. Let's get you on the mic a little better. I'll come over here. All right. So what's going on? Let's see here. We got Mati coming in studio for the first time, so just want to say thanks for that, man. Appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, nice setup. Yeah, I'm impressed.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully we'll have some great conversations here. That's what it was set up for, you know. The idea is when, like, if, let's say, like wearing clothes, right? If you feel like you look good, you perform good. And so the idea is, you know, when someone comes in here to feel good, and then they want to perform their best.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of where it all... Shit, that was the problem there. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, time pays me. What inspired you to put that together?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in crypto and mental health. And my background is as a therapist. And so
from early on when I heard about crypto, I was already trying to figure out a way to allow people to use something called contingency management with crypto. And so contingency management is a branch of psychology where you pay people to do things. For example, I worked in a quit smoking laboratory for 7 years where we paid people to quit smoking tobacco cigarettes and then measured their brainwaves and reaction times and stuff like that. And so I saw not only in my neuroscience career, but also in my career as a therapist, how people can have better control of their behaviors if they get paid to do something. And like, you know, the biggest case study you have in the world of like contingency management is actually employment. You know, billions of people get motivated to do jobs that they otherwise may or may not like doing because they have a financial incentive. And so when we look at the research behind contingency management, we see that it actually has a stronger effect size than talk therapy. So the whole thing that psychology is known for is actually the weaker intervention compared to contingency management. And it turns out contingency management might not only work with crypto, but scale better than everybody being assigned their own personal therapist. So that's kind of like back in like 2016, 2017, when I was first hearing about Bitcoin and well, really only Bitcoin. I was already asking the question of like, how can we use this so that people can motivate themselves to achieve their own goals? Because money is a pretty strong motivator. And how cool would it be if you could harness the power of your own savings?
Yeah. Okay. That's that. And I want to visit that that studies that you used to do with the smokers. You know, because like I have a mother who's smoked, you know, almost her entire life, and there hasn't been anything to influence her to want to quit. You know, not even watching people die around us from smoking.
Right.
So this fact saying, like what you're saying is, money though is like the strongest motivation to get someone to stop smoking. Like their own willpower, people dying around you is not strong enough. But if someone's willing to pay you, or in this case, set it up to pay yourself.
Yeah. So when I worked at the university and did the quit smoking neuroscience research, like I started to put some of the pieces of the puzzle together. And then it was like later when I was working as a drug counselor, to where I would help people quit using like the most addictive substances there were. And I would take the most difficult cases in the clinic of people who had multiple addictions to multiple things and whatnot. Before I really put together the puzzle of like how people's behavior can overcome their addiction. But the piece of the puzzle, I guess, one of them on the financial side that came together basically during my research time was I was asking myself, why is it that that so many people, they would like to quit or they've tried to quit multiple times, but it's basically, it's a custody problem of their money. Like basically, if I pay you $1,000, this is back in like 2005 money. Like if I pay you $1,000 and then give you all the tools you need to quit and give you all the information and all like the patches and the pills and whatever is going to work for your genotype and whatever is going to work for like, you know, your, if I catch you at the right time and, you know, give you testing every 2 days and like provide this bonus money for you, then you're able to do it. But even like, I guess the question, is like, why is it that people will spend thousands of dollars, but they can't pay themselves, right? That was the part that I was interested in. And during my neuroscience time, I actually had dinner with the guy who invented the nicotine patch. And he told me to my face at dinner, Jed Rose of North Carolina, he sold the patent for the nicotine patch that he invented to the tobacco companies. Okay. And the tobacco companies put the wrong instructions on the box to make it harder for people to quit. And then they paid all the doctors. They used like contingency management to pay the doctors to give people bad advice. And there was a huge wave of like millions of Americans that in between 2000 and 2010, who all tried the nicotine patch under the worst circumstances possible, where they're getting like a surgery and they're forced to associate the pain of surgery with the usefulness of the patch. And that creates like a huge subconscious trigger to not want to use the patch. The patch tells you not to smoke on the patch. Smoking on the patch is one of the best ways you can train your brain to not want to smoke. It's a bit counterintuitive, but like the research is very clear. And I believe that the tobacco companies knew exactly what they were doing when they bought the patent and they put the wrong instructions out there. And then I noticed another thing that they did is they bought up the cheapest e-cigarette basically companies and pushed a cheaper version of an e-cigarette on the market so that people would try something that didn't have enough nicotine in it and didn't have a good enough system to deliver that nicotine. And so, and then they put a bunch of stories out there about like popcorn lung and stuff, basically that were isolated events that weren't necessarily true. And so something that started off as a movement that could have, helped a lot of people quit smoking. That's how I quit smoking tobacco cigarettes, was with a special kind of e-cigarette that is not, designed to create clouds of smoke or anything, but it's, high nicotine. But if you don't have the high nicotine, then your brain is going to prefer the tobacco smoke. And so there's like, I could say that there's like 1,000 things, but it's really, there's probably like 3 or 4 things that society's got wrong about quit smoking, that it's simple things that they could get right. And and so it's not only knowing how to use a patch or an e-cigarette or any of the other tools that are out there, but we know that cold turkey, you only quit, like only 5% of people are successful. And that's the 1 out of 20 people that found it the easiest to quit smoking. And most people, when they quit smoking, they make themselves more addicted to smoking.
Really?
By the end of it, because they selectively quit when times are good, and then they relapse when times are bad. And part of the reason why smoking is so addictive and why 2 billion people on Earth smoke is because smoking benefits the brain in a number of ways. And so that's why, something that is a stimulant that helps with depression and anxiety and focus, ADHD, it helps with. And there's all these things that smoking helps with, but that doesn't mean that tobacco smoke is good for your lungs. It doesn't mean that tobacco smoke doesn't damage your lungs. But just ignoring all the benefits of nicotine itself is part of the problem of why it makes it harder to quit, because people get the idea that they're supposed to go cold turkey, or they get the wrong dose of the patch and they get nightmares from it, and just these little things that can go wrong when in reality, we had a 85% success rate of getting people to quit.
Wow. That's pretty good. I find that interesting that there's medication out there that can increase nightmares.
Yeah. Well,
how I don't understand how that, like, have they studied that part yet? Do you know?
I'm in like the 20% of people that had, like a couple extremely vivid nightmares from wearing the patch overnight. And I don't know that we completely understand why that happens, but we do know that for people where that happens, you just take the patch off before you go to sleep and problem solved. And then you can like supplement a little bit more nicotine, like in the morning, when you haven't had that overnight or whatever. But yeah, like basically there's lots of ways for people to quit, but part of the problem is the incentives of like the people who make one of the tools to quit, that's the tobacco company, and their financial incentives aren't right. And so, that's always been interesting to me. And it kind of opens up this bigger question of, okay, so like, all right, let's say I do have the right information, and we know that paying people is going to increase their motivation to do it. And so, but for me, having $100 or $1,000 or $10,000 in my pocket, that's not going to motivate me because I already have custody of the money. With programmable money, I can program the money to motivate me to achieve some goal. And then without a third party, I can motivate myself the same as I would be motivated from an external source. And so that's basically that was the dream of what I wanted to tap into with Time Pays Me, was to have a smart contract that does not rely on a middleman, does not, it's full self-custody, and would be, have low fees, basically, and give people the ability to change their own behavior using their own savings.
Nice. Yeah. So I guess it sounded like that you were addicted to cigarettes at one point, or nicotine.
Yeah, I would characterize it mostly as like a dependence more than an addiction. But yeah, in the sense like I was a regular smoker. Probably not like the most addicted to smoking as all the cases that I've seen. But yeah, definitely dependent on smoking. And yeah, then I successfully quit, and that was been so many years ago. I'd really have to do the math to like figure out how long it's been, but
nice, man. Well, congratulations.
Some of the most rewarding things I've learned about addiction was from helping people who were addicted to all kinds of substances when I worked as a substance abuse counselor. And that also taught me more about, I guess you could say, human nature and the way that psychology really works, not just like the textbook. I studied psychology. I have a master's in clinical psychology and studied neuroscience and got most of the way through a PhD program. And so I find it extremely interesting to figure out, to try to understand how people can motivate themselves and how people can, and one of the most interesting things that I've ever learned has to do with the fact that this idea in addiction treatment where people say you have to be ready to quit. You have to want to quit. And that could not be farther from the truth. And this is good news, by the way.
Really? I mean,
This is good news. And so part of what I discovered, part of how I discovered it is I decided to work with a population of people that were court ordered to quit using drugs. So this is a group of people that didn't even want to quit.
Okay, right.
And so how was I so successful, like, to where I was getting referred, like, from people from probably 4 different counties were all being sent to me. And why was that is because, basically because I realized working with this most difficult population that people simply, it's not so much about like whether you want to quit. It's more about whether you have the right tools. And so in a non-coercive way, I learned through hundreds of cases where basically I could give somebody something that's so easy and surround them with a group of people that were also successful in achieving whatever their goals were. But basically through using group psychology as well as individual sessions, I was able to help people not only want to quit, but then be successful in doing so.
Okay, wow. That's pretty interesting. What kind of drugs are we talking about?
So basically in the Midwest, there's a lot of meth. There's a lot of alcohol, basically heroin, stuff like that. Opioid addiction is really big. So I'd say, yeah, like most of the most difficult addiction cases I would see were opioid and meth.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so they'd get a court ordered to stop doing drugs, which is kind of odd because it's a self-inflicted thing. So to have a court tell you that you can't do drugs, I don't know. That's interesting in itself. But so they get told this and then they get sent to you.
Yeah. So your life would be so in shambles that like DCFS would have taken your kids and then they send you to me. You get arrested for shoplifting, abusing your partner, different crimes, like you get arrested for a felony. So then you're being referred by parole or by probation. And then also you can lose your license for having multiple DUIs in Illinois. And so then you'd be referred by the Secretary of State. So there's a number, and there would be some people who referred themselves. But in reality, I was working with about 90 to 95% of people who were not even motivated to be there.
Wow. And all right, so once getting into the program, do you have like an average time length that it took them to kind of come to this point where they decided that, oh, I do want to stop? Like, is there like an average time that took?
So my minimum that I would tell people is you have to work the program for 12 weeks. And typically that would be coming in like 2 to 3 times a week. And so I was working in more of like an intensive outpatient type of situation. And but a lot of people, they demonstrated that they could go 3 months without using, and maybe it took them 3 months or 6 months to do that. But then many of them would continue in the program a little bit longer after all, because they'd be learning things that are so useful to them in terms of putting their entire life back together. And like part of deciding whether you use drugs or not does not happen inside of you. It happens outside of you in terms of your environment. And that's the number one important takeaway that you can get from this, where basically it's your people, places, and things that kind of program your behavior. And so that's why it's so important with this time pays me technology, and with with your social behavior and all the the voices that you listen to, like, you know, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's in your family or your friends and stuff, like all of that is going to influence whether you make good choices or bad choices, quote unquote.
Yeah, I've been recently, actually, I just had these thoughts of that I've noticed being around my friends and things that maybe they don't want to drink or something. And, you know, they're in this social setting and that urge, you know, is just so hard for them to say no. And like, oh, well, then I'll just have a drink. So then they have one, but then that one, it's never just one, you know, and then it's on to, you know, they continue on throughout the evening. But I just find it interesting because I don't suffer from those issues. So it's interesting to me to like witness it and just from like an outside perspective and view it. Yeah, just so.
Did the people enjoy being healed or cured or whatever you call that?
For the most part, yeah, it was, and that's why I say it's the most rewarding work that I've ever done, is because I got to see hundreds of people get their lives back, and like some of the people that I worked with went from being homeless to getting straight A's in community college. People went from having their kids taken away by the state to having their wife or their husband back and learning healthy relationship skills and being employed and, you know, learning how to make friends without abusing substances. And, you know, they're in control of their lives. So they have new hobbies and interests that like allow them to grow as a person and to not self-destruct. Like a lot of the healing that happened, I mean, it didn't feel good to like learn how to cope with your trauma and like all of the bad things that have happened to you, and to like learn how to deal with suicidal thinking and depression and how to catch things before they grow into such a big problem that it shuts you down. But it was like, yeah, it was a big deal for a lot of people.
Awesome.
Would you like recommend them to have to, I guess, stay out of those settings with those friends and situations that are influencing them? Was that like part of your program?
That's so tough, though.
Well, I know, but this is what a lot of people have to do because that influence is so strong that maybe they have to make a new patterning before they could bring them back in their lives or
New
something. New friends, or just building their willpower.
Yeah, so I would teach people the basics first, and break down the idea of you have triggers are things that make you want to use, and then you have anchors, which are people, places, and things that make you not want to use. And I would teach people that you have to find what the equation is for you in any given moment. If you get a phone call and you find out somebody that you care about passed away, like, you don't want to be on the edge of like having two people with you that are going to encourage you to use substances and two people that and only one person or zero people that are, you know, going to encourage you to not use substances. And so I would emphasize one lesson in particular is that a lot of people in addiction recovery, they believe that they need to be strong. They need to be strong enough to like test themselves and to like go into situations that they used to be in where they would use, and then prove that they've changed on the inside and not use. But in fact, that's not how it works. And so by like pointing that out to people and letting them go experience it, they would realize that they need to avoid situations that include known triggers so that they can be smart instead of strong, and not test their strength for expected triggers, because there will always be unexpected triggers. And if you save your strength for the unexpected triggers by being smart, that allows you to stay in control. And you have to have a plan in place of like, what do I do the next time I get bad news? And, I would have people list out the things that make them want to use and the people that make them want to use, and list out the people who make them not want to use and the activities that make them not want to use. And I would make them schedule every hour of every day, so that they would know with their rational mind what they're supposed to be doing. And then, then they would get better and better at planning and decision-making and doing all these little things, these 100 little things that make you 1% more in control. And now they're way more in control than before. And it's exciting to succeed. And it's kind of, that's a kind of a positive addiction that people could get, is like, some people got addicted to self-improvement.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah. Just wanting
I'm addicted to hex.
Hey,
wanting to be
that's a whole thing.
wanting to be healthy is definitely, I think that's a new thing coming in today's world. People are wanting to get healthy again, so that's exciting. But what you were saying basically was they need the right tools, and you had these tools and things for them that could help guide them to getting their life back, which is amazing. So thanks for all that work that you did to those people. I'm sure they're in deep gratitude to you for, the benefits that they got out of those times with you.
Yeah, one thing about that is you make a little change in someone's life, and then it ripples through. And so their grandchildren, you might see them like 20 years later, and they never would have had that person and all those experiences and choices and stuff. And it's just pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I would see like grandparents and parents and children would like bring their family members to me after they got better. I would work on the next generation, basically.
Oh, wow.
And that was really awesome to see, like the healing happening, and then I had clients who would go out and like be recovery leaders and like start Narcotics Anonymous groups and stuff like that. And so yeah, it really does have a ripple effect. And what I ended up realizing around the time when crypto really started to take off for me was that I was already working every hour that the clinic was open, and way more, about twice as much as anybody else, because and all my groups were full, and all my clients were showing up. And so I reached the maximum amount of good that I could do in that one clinic. And then the question became like, how do I scale this further? And that's when I started, getting more serious about, my YouTube platform for mental health, but also Time Pays Me, what ended up becoming Time Pays Me. And one of the things that interested me in Hex was that this was the first example that I saw on the blockchain of people changing their own behavior using crypto. And this, so the example that we have in Hex is you're changing your savings behavior because you're paying your future self and you're locking in to sending yourself, money in the future. So.
Right. Nice. Yeah.
I wonder if there'd be like some sort of company that could get set up that works with Time Pays Me that would actually somehow release the funds from, I guess Time Pays Me does the release, but somehow supports your, I guess, what am I looking for? What do they call this thing? Oracle, maybe? Like an oracle that checks on people's activities. And if you make a promise that you want to quit smoking, then this oracle could check and make sure that you're actually quit smoking, and then would work with Time Pays Me to release the funds. Now,
well, I'm so glad that you brought up the oracle problem, because we've actually already solved that.
oh, really?
Right.
So we have a news breaking event?
Well, yeah, it should have been news.
Brand new news. Breaking news. So, all right. So, yeah, tell us a little about that.
So, I mean, that was always the question, is like, how does the blockchain know that you quit smoking, or that you wrote the first chapter of your book, which is what I use Time Pays Me for, once upon a time, or whatever it is, like whatever your health behavior is or your goal. Hopefully it's not like harming somebody, like, but yeah, like whatever your positive pro-social goal is, like how does the blockchain know, and how do you keep yourself accountable now that you've got this smart contract out there? And so in order to solve the quote unquote Oracle problem, basically what we realized is that because people are paying themselves to change their own behavior, if you cheat, it's game theory. If you cheat, you're right back to where you started. So if I take $10,000 to pay myself to write the first chapter of a book about Time Pays Me, and I don't write the chapter, but I time locked the money, okay, well, first of all, the money will come back to me after a year, whether I complete the goal or not. So that's the punishment for not doing the behavior, is like, like I have to wait a year. And, then I don't have to pay short-term capital gains tax either. So that's kind of cool. If I'm locking something other than USDC. But basically, but that doesn't solve the problem of like, who's going to hold me accountable. And so what we did is we made it so that when you create a behavior lock on Time Pays Me, you generate a link that has a code in it. And that code can be given to what we call the behavior validator, which is anybody in your personal life, or in my case, like I had met some people at a conference that I wanted to, like, they were excited about the idea of Time Pays Me. So I wanted to like show them how it works. So I had a couple of people in my personal life and a couple of people who I had met that I wanted to teach about Time Pays Me, who had no crypto wallet. They had no experience with crypto. So I sent them this code, and I said, once I send you the book chapter on Time Pays Me, you send me the code, and that code unlocks my money. Oh. Them having the code does not give them access to my money, but me not having the code makes me wait a year unless I complete the behavior and get the code back from one of the behavior validators.
Need some good accountability friends, huh? To be like, let me see that chapter first. Right. And then you can get this code.
Right. And that's what happened.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Cool. So all Time Pays Me options, I mean, whatever, while you have this option to have someone have a key to facilitate the early release.
Yeah. So Time Pays Me has like a way to time lock any crypto on Ethereum or PulseChain. It has a way, basically, yeah. And you can do a hard lock or you can do a drip. But the other thing that Time Pays Me does is it allows you to do a behavior lock, which you write the goal into the blockchain, and then you take the link and you share it with your behavior validator. And then if your behavior validator gives you the code back, then the funds become unlocked immediately. And then you can do another goal. You can pay yourself for another goal, or if you want to withdraw the funds out of Time Pays Me, the vault that you've created for yourself, you have to wait 7 days. And the reason why we have a 7-day timer on releasing your funds out of the vault that you've created for yourself is because Time Pays Me actually also allows you to undo a hack.
Right, with the 7-day wait period.
And so the way that works is Time Pays Me vault, when you create it, it creates an address that's controlled by your address that you created it with. And that's the vault address. And basically, when you think about what happens when somebody hacks your money, they have your seed phrase and you have your seed phrase. But the problem is they can move the money before you find out that they, that they initiated the transaction, right? Like, why do I need my money to have to move immediately? Like, that's actually more of a liability than anything. And so, so it's very cool that we also invented this additional technology that's built into Time Pays Me, where any funds that you put into your vault, if somebody hacked that address, what you might have already done is you might have set up a recovery address, which is a separate seed phrase. And so in that case, the attacker announces themselves by making a withdrawal request that wasn't you. So like they have to tell the blockchain, release these funds, and or your funds are dripping out over time. So like they can't even request all of it at once anyway. And now you realize that some funds are missing, or that somebody initiated like a withdrawal that wasn't you.
Is that via email, or how did they find out? How did you find out?
It's all up to you.
Okay.
So
what are the options?
So you can go look on the blockchain to see if somebody took your money, or at least on Ethereum, you can set up an alert on etherscan.io to email you anytime that something happens. Basically, Time Pays Me doesn't take on that responsibility because we don't want the liability of, a centralized email service decided not to send an email, or your spam filter decided to block us. And so now you can, sue us because we were supposed to tell you and we didn't. So that's part of the ethos of, self-custody and real crypto, not your keys, not your coins and stuff. So if you want to be more, if you want to check it less often, you just make a longer hard lock. Right. Or, have a drip set up to where, you're not going to lose everything all at once, or don't lose your seed phrase in the first place. But if you, no matter what you do, let's say you have a hardware wallet. Do you understand everything you're clicking on the hardware wallet down to the code? Do you know what EIP 712 is really doing when you're swapping hex on CowSwap? No, you don't, because the hardware wallet doesn't even tell you sometimes what it's doing. So just, we wanted a way to have more, I guess you could call it mental health around crypto, in terms of it's really easy to get hacked. So while we're already creating this vault system where you can pay yourself to do some health behavior, why not have it be the most secure, smart contract out there? And so there's an incredible level of game theory that's been programmed into Time Pays Me that you might not even realize because we haven't really advertised it. For example, I can sign a transaction to put my vault into panic mode ahead of time in case I'm traveling and I don't want to carry my primary seed phrase or my backup seed phrase with me. What if somebody tries to wrench attack me when I'm posting on Facebook that I'm at the Eiffel Tower, right? Well, you don't even have to basically have any gas in your primary wallet that gets hacked, because how would that work anyway? The hacker can just take the gas money away from you. So how would you even tell the vault that you need ownership to be transferred to the recovery address? Well, we programmed it in so that anybody can pay the gas fee, not just the hacked wallet. But the hacked wallet has to give permission, because you don't want anybody changing the control of your vault to this secondary address that you have set up. Like somebody could maliciously do that. They could say, oh, who's the biggest holder in who's the biggest user of Time Pays Me? Oh, let's just like, let's just flip their vault into panic mode. Like, no, that's not how it works. You have to have a signature from like the relevant addresses. And so it's something I'm very proud of that like is probably too much information for most people to understand, but it kind of, how else are you going to get the information out there than, like, I guess one conversation at a time.
So it's any token that's ERC20
or a PRC20
or PRC20.
Yep.
And how about, could you lock up, let's say, Pulse for 10 years, and then because you wrote your book, after 6 months, you can release it all?
So you could lock Pulse for 10 years, and you could separately have an amount of Pulse or some other token that you use to pay yourself to motivate within less than a 1 year time frame.
Okay, so it can't be the 10-year. It's limited to a 1 year.
So like, so like basically, let's say you wanted to write a book and you put the behavior goal in there. If you don't write it in a year, then like the funds become unlocked, because what if you made it too difficult of a goal? Or what if you said you were going to walk every day and then you broke your leg? Like people are really bad at creating goals for themselves usually. And so we wanted to build like a safety feature in there to basically say, no matter what, or what if like, what if my behavior validator, like, what if I use the homeless guy outside of the 7-Eleven as my behavior validator, and then he ends up getting a home and I don't know where he lives? Like, what am I supposed to do then? Well, at least I can wait a year and get my money back. It's not just burned.
Right.
So,
yeah, what I was thinking of was a way to do a cold wallet. So like I could put all my stuff that I'm not going to use in the Time Pays Me. And then if I do need to get it out, I just say I stop smoking and do that release, and then it would come out. But that's only for 1 year.
So you can put money into a vault so that you can set up the recovery address and you can undo a hack, and that's only a 7-day wait period. Or you can time lock your stuff, or you can do a behavior goal, or you can do any combination of those things.
Okay. Cool. I need to play with it.
Yeah. And like the incredible thing that is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain, but like you have to experience it, is like, I believe it might be the case that when people use Time Pays Me to motivate themselves for a particular goal, it might cause them to become motivated in all the other areas of their life as well. Because that's what happened to me.
Well, that's building that willpower too. You accomplish this one thing and it's like strengthening you in a way, in that sense, to take on more.
It was extremely profound in my case. And so I'm excited if other people decide to try it out for the behavior locking, to see, if other people also experience this effect, or whether it was just the circumstances I was in. But
you had another staking app, didn't you?
I have a lot of stuff going on.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So that
was different though.
So there's a Hex front end that Future Us and I made.
Right.
That's the developer that I work with, called Future Us.
Nice guy.
How's Future Us? Haven't seen him in a while.
Oh yeah, he's good.
Cool. Hey, Future Us.
What's up?
Shout out Future Us.
And so,
well, yeah, what was that staking one?
Yeah, so it's go.tshare.app.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yep, and that still works to this day, and it's
that had a game portion to it too. Didn't you shoot at something? Or I I remember some sort of fireworks or something on the screen.
Yeah, so if you just go to tshare.app and don't put the go dot in front of it, it'll take you to a claw game, like when you pick up like a stuffed animal out of like a claw machine. And so you pick up the heart, and you can pick up a 5, 10, or 15-year heart. And then that gamifies your ability to start a 5, 10, or 15-year hex stake.
Got it. Yeah, I remember that one. That was cute.
Still works.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's what all this is about. This is code. It's written on the internet and published, and there's no keys to it. It's not changing. It's just working. And
There is, through Time Pays Me, there is somewhere in the mechanism where there's a small fee that Time Pays Me gets. What is that contingent to?
Yeah, so it's 1/1000th of a unit. So that's like 0.1%. So that's less than a swap, less than the cost of a swap, which is like typically 0.3%. So it's 3 times cheaper than a swap. And basically you incur that fee anytime you take money out of your vault. And so the reason we wanted to create that was, first of all, to have an extremely low fee to make it possible for people to, use this awesome idea, but also it creates a longer pays better situation, because if I time lock for 2 years, I'm only paying 0.1%. But if I lock for a year and then I lock for another year, I pay 0.1% twice.
Okay.
And so it's just, it's another way to pay homage to like the ideas of hex, and basically get people, at one point I thought maybe more people will use Time Pays Me than have used hex. And I don't know that that's the case. Mostly time locking fell out of favor, based on different bull runs and stuff. But so, and especially something, this doesn't pay you any extra, like the yield that you get is you become more motivated, or you save yourself from yourself, and you don't sell when you're not wanting to. And actually, of all the things that people have told me, even though I don't go asking them how is Time Pays Me going for you, a lot of people have come to me and thanked me that they were able to hold onto like some random tokens and get better control of their saving behavior because of Time Pays Me. So I think it does. I think in retrospect, I think the fee was actually too low, because it doesn't create like a marketing budget or like a strong incentive to get the word out about Time Pays Me. I wish that we had like a referral system or something in there, but it's too late for that. And really the referral system is going to have to be people such as myself who found it useful, and then maybe more people will give it a try, or it could possibly get adopted by some like platform that already has a huge user base of people that need help changing one of their behaviors.
Coinbase.
Right.
Well, it comes back to, though, someone having to want to do something. You want to write that book chapter. You want to quit smoking, because that's got to be the incentive to want to use Time Pays Me, right? In that aspect. But for me, I think the biggest thing about Time Pays Me is that security backup. That's amazing what y'all did there. A way to just kind of prevent that.
To be fair, you haven't tried the behavior change, the behavior lock. And so that's the typical response, is like people like the theory of how the security works, but they don't necessarily have a motivation to use it right away, because they think that they're going to be safe anyway, or there are other ways to maximize your security. And so I think, but Time Pays Me was always meant to be a tool where other people could come along and like use it in different ways. So for example, I can send tokens, I can do an airdrop to somebody's vault address before they've created their vault address.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting because of how Ethereum and PulseChain works. The Time Pays Me contract, like, it uses a predictive address system. And so, I still remember like the light bulb flash moment when Future Us and I like invented and like realized like, oh, wait a second, we can predict your vault address with 100% certainty, like mathematical proof, like not 99.99%, like we can mathematically prove what your vault address will be before you even run the code to set it up based on your public address. And so I can airdrop to people who haven't even used Time Pays Me to reward them for some behavior I see on chain or to get them interested in, you know, some new token, but that goes into their vault and then they would have to go create the vault and then do the withdraw for 7 days. They'd have to wait and then the coins would be available or tokens. So yeah, I've done that for Mati token. In fact, for people who had done a freedom to sign sacrifice, they didn't know they were getting anything and proved that they knew that they were getting nothing. And then later on, there were, you know, Mati tokens that had been created by Funding Gym that I was like, oh, it'd be cool to, you know, reward those people. And so there were Mati tokens that were sent. They were actually bridged from PulseChain to Ethereum, and then they were sent to the vault addresses of the sacrificers, whether they sacrificed on PulseChain or on Ethereum.
Why'd you have to bring it back over to Ethereum to do that? Or...
Didn't have to, but I liked the game theory of just like it's a little bit more expensive to, and you kind of have to do a little bit more research if you want to dump the tokens. You have to like do a little bit more work. And it teaches some people who, you know, never even use PulseChain, who are on Ethereum, how to use PulseChain and how to use Time Pays Me. So, yeah, like there, and that actually could be, you know, that's an example, and I think other people might come along and maybe they'll do something similar because there's this mechanism for airdropping that is kind of innovative there.
Kind of secret.
Right.
So basically it's a hash of the person's address creates this new address. So it's like the daughter address, account 1, account 2, except it's not the same function. So it does like account 1 and account A and account B and account C. So it creates a whole nother chain of daughter addresses that you have to go into Time Pays Me in order to find out.
It's really fun that it doesn't actually create anything. It just, you know, how the blockchain works, you're not actually sending tokens, you're just assigning them
right
to an address. And so it's really fascinating that we know ahead of time what the public address is of the vault that your private key will be able to control based on the public address of the original address. So yeah, so you know, a sacrificer has an address, or you know, even the origin address. We could take the origin addresses that are out there of any token really, and yeah, we can go to PulseScan and EtherScan, and we can run the contract code in Time Pays Me to say what is the vault address. of any address in existence, and it will spit out a different address that can only be controlled by that public address that we started with.
How did y'all find that out? That's pretty cool idea.
Yeah. That's a good question. Like I said, I remember where I was when I was talking. Future Us and I would just talk for like 2 or 3 hours every day for like a year and a half to like, and that's kind of how Mr. Beast like became a master of his craft. Was he would just like get on voice calls with his friends for like 12 hours a day for like years and years and years, and just like they would just push their knowledge further and further. And really Future Us, he like understands crypto at some like insanely deep level, you know, that like maybe Richard Hart and some PulseChain devs like understand it at that level. But I could basically ask him any question, you know, this is before ChatGPT really came out, and he would just, you know, come up with the answer of like, well, you know, and be doing all these kind of like lateral thinking exercises. So yeah, we wanted a way basically to just be able to airdrop people and to use kind of to build on the vault address system that we had figured out. So we explored the idea of creating a version of Time Pays Me where you can pay other people to do things, but we quickly discovered that is part of the root evil of money. Like that basically, if we designed such a system, it would be used by evil people to do evil things.
Aww.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've intentionally like steered clear of that space. And like, so you could think of it as like, okay, what's the closest thing to like Time Pays Me where you pay other people to do stuff? Currently is probably like Polymarket would be an example of something where like, you know, you can bet on the outcome of something like will somebody like come with an axe through the door and like break down the door, you know? And like the reason why that's not a good thing to bet on is because you're giving somebody an incentive to like chop down your door. Mm-hmm. Right. So normally Polymarket, like they have to have some sort of control in place and a bunch of liability and stuff to be able to you know, decide what people are betting on and what people are paying for, quote unquote. But like that can go down a dark path, and we want to have more ways for people to motivate each other and motivate themselves. But in reality, one of the best ways that you could probably motivate yourself to do something other than paying yourself to do it, and other than somebody else paying you to do it, is to like make a public commitment and to like have people hold you accountable just because you said you were going to do something. So that's where social media might come into play more with Time Pays Me in the future, where I've thought about setting up like a system basically where people can generate NFTs to represent their behavior goals. And so we might do that at some point.
Nice. Yeah. Speaking of the social media, why don't we go and check out some social media with the Time Pays Me. All right. Here we are. Time Pays Me.
Yes, this is the Twitter, x.com/timepaysme. If you go to timepays.me, it'll ask you to connect your wallet and all that good kind of stuff. So if you're just trying to learn more information, this is where you would find it, is on the Twitter. Basically, there's pinned right there from like over a year ago is a tutorial thread that teaches you how to set up your Time Pays Me to be able to undo a hack and to time lock for in between 1 week and 55 years, any tokens. And then the behavior lock is something I think you pretty much like would just explore on the site yourself if you're ready to do that.
55 years.
Oh, yeah.
That's quite, I mean,
That's a long time.
that's a long time. People, these going to get these little hexos out here. They're little kids. Get their kids doing 55-year.
I'm aiming for 180.
So there is one user of Time Pays Me other than myself that I know of who has done some max length Time Pays Me locks, and it's somebody who he's a longevity enthusiast, and he back when we had the first big Hex conference. He got on for like a minute and talked to Richard Hart and said he's 19 years old and, had time locked in Hex the maximum amount. And then when we released Time Pays Me the year after, he did some Pulse and PulseX, I believe, for the max length. So they practice what you preach there.
There we go. Getting that money.
And I did that too, just for fun. I put some 55-year time locks on Pulse and PulseX, using actually these physical coins that I created that have private keys built into them.
Did he tell you that he did this time lock, or can you go on the blockchain and see all the coins? Like, do we know if...
He said on Twitter, this is Kincaid Honey. He said on Twitter that he did it. And like anybody can see when you do something in Time Pays Me, you can see it on the blockchain, but you can't see what the goal is. Like that's private. So you can't see, and you also don't know whose address is whose unless somebody tells you.
Right, but you could go to the Time Pays Me
contract
address and see that Pulse was locked and PulseX was locked and Hex was locked. All that kind of cool.
Yep.
It just seems like it would be useful for possibly a token might want to lock up something for a certain amount of period, like communists. Didn't he lock up tokens? Did he lock them on Time Pays Me?
Yeah, one of the largest holders of communist token did a huge time lock in Time Pays Me
For 10 years, I think.
Okay, I don't remember how long it was.
I just remember the conversation. I think it was 10 years. But
there's been, I know there's been over $1 million locked in Time Pays Me.
Awesome.
But I don't have more up-to-date statistics than that. Because I don't like spying on people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, nobody does.
And just put some things to rest. Mati did not create the Mati token.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of confusion out there and stuff, but, Funding Jim, Gary, took it upon himself to make this, and then he informed you on it, right? Like, it was like, oh, I did this thing. It's like, let's try this experiment. And that's all it's been, is an experiment, the whole thing. And that's not like hidden news.
Right. Yeah. And Mati token also, did not rug because there's a shitload of money that is on chain that seems to be buying back Mati tokens at higher and higher prices. So that's kind of cool that, I guess it's not cool that a bunch of people lied about that, but it's cool that you can go on chain and prove that all the money is still there, and that it's doing good things for the people who actually hold Mati token.
Which goes back to do your own research. Just don't listen to people online and assume things.
And we're not getting paid to broadcast here, and I don't think...
Yeah, nobody's getting paid.
I don't have a gun to your guys' head.
Yeah, everybody's doing this out of their free will to promote PulseChain and the blockchain in general.
It's quite the addiction, Hex and PulseChain and crypto. It's really interesting to keep learning about it, and then the community builds and all these new techniques and ideas, and we have coins that do this, that move things over here. It's amazing what folks are thinking about crypto.
Yeah, like if you or if anybody like had been actually looking at the sacrifice address for Mati token and stuff like that, you would have seen that it bought the all-time low of Deci token, which is 10-year wrapped hex. It bought that with sacrifice funds.
When was that?
And with liquidity funds. I don't know exactly when it was. But that's kind of interesting because Deci was at a 50% discount. So that's literally the cheapest that Hex ever was. Deci was cheaper than Hex. And it's backed by an extra 70% now. At the time, it was like 60% more Hex. And so like whatever good deal that you got buying the bottom of Hex, you came nowhere close to getting as good of a deal as the Mati token sacrifice address got for buying Hex, Deci in the form of Deci, and then there was also basically there's some farming that occurred, and then it decided that PulseX and Deci are like the two best plays. And so really, because the liquidity has been kept low intentionally so that coins are not available for cheap, somebody could have copy traded, and you know, the move is not to like buy Mati token because it doesn't need new buyers. It has basically SAC funds that why would you not hold your own keys? Why would you wait for a sacrifice address to do something when you could just copy trade the sacrifice address? And so that's like one of the lessons of Mati token is like, wait a second. Well, okay. So people who got into it, it seems like they're going to be just fine. And the people who didn't get into it, they don't have to buy hoping that somebody will come along later and buy it at a higher price. They can just copy trade what the sacrifice address is holding, and they'll get the same returns. And so it's kind of a cool moral of the story is like, oh, well, you know, like that promotes self-custody. That promotes like not a Ponzi scheme. That, you know, like that's actually in line with everything we believe. You know, like if you want to dump your Mati tokens on the market, you're going to eat a bunch of slippage and not get a very good price. But if you wait for more liquidity to get added back over time, that has worked out pretty well. And that there's no promises or guarantees or expectations. We can just go off of the behavior on chain. Same thing. If you didn't already have Mati token, then buying it, you're going to eat a bunch of slippage on the way up, and it's not going to benefit you compared to just holding the assets in the sacrifice address. So, I mean, there are some good lessons in there, I think.
Is this Deci that you're talking about? Maximus Deci? Now, Deci was started on Ethereum?
Yep.
And then they got the copy over?
Yeah, so it started in November of 2022. So that means that it's a 10-year stake and it's a perpetual. And so the stake matures in 2032 in November. And so far, there's been about 70% yield that's been accrued. and yet it's still the same price as Hex's. And so it's like, basically it's like buying the Grayscale Bitcoin back when that had a huge discount on it, or it's like buying the Grayscale Ethereum back when that had a huge discount on it. I bought those things. Like I bought Ethereum for $500 a token when it only went down to $900 per token. Because, because why not? Why not take advantage of the discount? So, and then, like, with all this OA staking and stuff, like Deci just continues to be a better and better deal, which is something that you could have known about a long time ago if you were non-biasedly following the Mati address.
So Deci is a 10-year, and then there's Trio. The Maximus I know is a 15. Is there a 5 and a 7?
Yeah, there's Lucky is 7, and
okay, Lucky 7.
5 is what?
Cinco.
Maybe it's only 3 and 7. It's 1, 3,
Okay.
7, 10, and the 15 is not perpetual. So that's just a one-time Maximus token that doesn't renew itself. Like Base does every year, like Trio does every 3 years, like Lucky does every 7 years, and like Deci does every 10 years. So when I combined when I took Deci, so I did this for Lamont Black and Kelly Richmond Pope, who were in the Highest of Stakes documentary. They're both the critics. And there's one scene where I've seen the Highest of Stakes documentary 14 times. Okay. There's a scene where Kelly Richmond Pope, she's on her, she's on a Zoom call with Lamont Black, and she says, "You're telling me that if somebody gave you $400 of Hex and it turned into $20,000, you wouldn't sell it and be convinced?" He was like, "Well, no, I'm not saying I'm not saying that I wouldn't sell it and be convinced." So to celebrate that, I handed them both a physical 1 ounce coin that has a private key built into it, that has a Time Pays Me vault that's dripping them Deci for 20 years. Okay.
Let's go.
And that's like a 20-year bond. It's something that they can understand. And so they have a time lock that's paying them yield, and it's dripping them Deci every week for 20 years. That is Hex that's earning interest. So yeah, hell yeah.
Nice.
So someday I wouldn't be surprised, because I think it was in between 1 and 2 T-shares at the time of the movie that I gifted them.
Okay.
And so, yeah, when Hex, goes back up to 10 cents or new all-time high, 55 cents or multiple dollars, I want to see that prophecy come true, and for them to be able to cash out more than they said in the movie.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so looking here at GoPulse, might as well give a look here to what's going on in PulseChain, and then we'll probably wrap it up after that. I think Larry's going to have to go.
Right on.
But maybe we can do some other stuff after that, but we'll see here. All right, see here. We got Pulse coming in. I mean, we've been pumping. It's been great.
Look at that burn to PLSX. It is now 635. It was 6.1, I think, 2 weeks ago. So it's gone up 0.25% in 2 weeks.
Well, this is probably one of the best ratios I've seen here with PulseX, this 1.18 here. Yeah, so there's some movement.
What's going to happen when all the PulseX is burnt? Like, it's going to happen like in 20 years maybe, or less than 20 years?
Well, not all of it will be burned, because it adjusts itself. So it's taking a fee and buying it, but if the price goes up, if there's less on the market, then it buys it at a higher price.
Right. So it just never gets. It's that line, asymptote line.
Yeah.
Got it. But that would be really beautiful to be around at that time.
Yeah, and I mean, it's gonna follow probably even a better trajectory than Pancake Swap and BNB, which are other examples of like the closest thing you could see to a buy and burn, but that's not a decentralized buy and burn. And this is the first technology of its kind to take a decentralized swapping fee and have it built completely into the infrastructure of the chain and the token of PulseX to be able to buy and burn without a middleman involved. It's very, very cool. And I mean, even if nobody ever bought PulseX again, if people bought other tokens, you know, that would cause buy and burn happening. And so it's kind of like in perpetual motion now.
Is PulseX the first buy and burn token of automated buy and burn?
Yeah.
That's amazing. Because now it's really taken off. Like PTGC does that kind of thing, and UpX does that kind of thing, and you know, so many different coins that it's a good thing.
Yeah, and some of those might be more or less manual or automatic. I'm not sure, but PulseX is definitely like I would say the largest and earliest. I mean, Uniswap built it into their code, but they never activated it because they chose to have the fees go to their centralized address. So
big green candles. That's what we like to see happening. Hex has been flirting with the 2 cents. But look at that. 66%, 7 days.
While the rest of crypto has been sideways and down this past week.
Right. Yeah, we can even take a look at that here.
Liquidity makes a difference. Definitely.
What do we got here? Bitcoin clocking in around $97,800. Ethereum still a little low, 2,700.
Yeah, I think, you know, in the future, when later this year or next year, Hex and PulseChain and PulseX are the most valuable cryptos in the world. I think people will come back and study this time period of the past week or two and whatever's about to happen in the next couple weeks. And I've just published before we went live, I published on Twitter,
I saw
14 predictions of game theory that could come true to make Hex and PulseChain and PulseX and Inc go up even more than ever in the next month.
That's this right here.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Show more. There you go. Space rock.
14 more ways the OA is set to moon PulseChain. We got one. The SEC case dismissed. Yeah, so I mean that should be happening any time now, huh? Just kind of waiting.
We're 104 days in, 105 days since October 31st. So yeah, that decision of Judge Aman to dismiss the case based on jurisdiction or continue the case will be the full 40 to plus page write-up should be coming out any day now.
I saw the BNB and the SEC agreed to a 60-day contemplation period. So I wonder if Richard will get something like that, where they think about it for 60 days before they do their next actions.
That won't affect like the judge's process. So if Richard and the SEC like decide to kiss and make up, then the judge basically would still be doing her write-up
Right.
and everything. So yeah, like we could hear from Richard or his team or the SEC that like they're dropping something. However, that's less likely than hearing back from the judge here soon. But either could be a good outcome.
It's pretty amazing he's made all these moves before the court thing. I mean, he's obviously feels innocent. I feel he's innocent too, and
Well, he is innocent.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, hopefully that'll be dismissed, sooner than later. Let's see, number 2, we got PulseX single-sided staking. That's not already currently happening, is it?
No,
Not yet.
Okay.
and I wouldn't say as bullish personally.
Oh, what? Say more.
Well, I just think that having equal liquidity, it makes it more volatile. So like you have to buy and it moves the chart. Where if you do single-sided, you just put it there and wait for the chart to get to you. So the only thing that actually moves the chart is a non-limit order.
So single-sided staking for PulseX, I believe, would be similar to how 9inch does it, where you earn their incentive token for time locking your PulseX. So it's not part of a liquidity position, which is why there's no impermanent loss. And you're just being paid some percent in the reward token. And I think 9inch is paying some like low amount, like 1 or 2% of BBC token to people who time lock their PulseX, but you get way more, you get a higher percentage the longer you lock. And so that would make it so that people can't sell PulseX for however long they lock up. So that I think categorically would be bullish in the short term. Now, if the max lockup is a year and you're a year later and everybody has their PulseX getting unlocked at that point, that could become an inflationary, pressure compared to what had been deflationary. But I think in the short term, that could be a force multiplier that sends the price of everything up more if people lock.
I was thinking single-sided orders.
Right. Okay.
Not single-sided staking.
That's number 12.
We haven't got down there yet.
Okay,
Larry.
got it.
Jeez.
I mean, it's great for people who want to play the game and stuff like that. I think it brings more players in and stuff. It's a better market to have single-sided. I just see the volatility that Richard started with the even-sided liquidity, because it makes you buy and sell. And then the market sees the consequences of that immediately.
Right. And if you're talking about single-sided orders or single-sided liquidity, then I do see your argument of it.
It's kind of like the
bearish.
EHEX. The EHEX thing that's going on. They put in a single-sided order, and it's just been sitting there waiting for that order to get chewed through until it gets done.
So you can cross 12 off the list if you want to, but not number 2.
Not number 2. Okay.
We got number 3, continued hex staking in quotation marks again. What do you mean by that?
So that would be the 7-day rolling stakes continuing, basically.
Right.
Instead of like this 7-day rolling stakes stopping and never staking again. Mm-hmm. So the reason that's bullish is because it eats up more of the the hex
OA.
inflation,
Okay.
and so there's less
Pushes
hex for people to sell.
Pushes T-share up.
Not in as much of a significant way as it takes away inflation from other people who have been selling it.
Right.
So
yeah.
that's the main bullish.
All right. Let's see. Number 4, gonna run the validators to cause PLS deflation.
So you're saying that the OA would run validators?
Good.
Right. It could. I don't see that one as positive, though. Not as positive, but as likely or something. I saw that short stakes on Hex were definitely creating sell pressure. We can see that. But and then reducing the inflation on the LP makers gets people to remove liquidity. Now, what would be the reason that you'd want less inflation in Pulse? It's not going to affect.
Yeah, I guess like this list was kind of like thrown together. So like the finer point is that like it would be the same thing as Hex, where maybe you don't have to pay the validators 10% a year for them to validate. Maybe they're going to validate if the OA, eats up 40% of that and they only get 6%. And maybe that makes their Pulse more valuable for the people who are not dumping it immediately. And so maybe that becomes a net positive for both the people who are earning the 6%. Now the 6% has a higher dollar value. And and so that could kind of pay for itself in a sense.
I hear Rackham's a big validator, Rackham Rochelle.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering what he's doing with his rewards, if he's dumping them. Nothing good?
No.
Yeah. I don't know. So I'm not going to say anything good or bad, but yeah, at least.
Well, I mean, but his validators, his rewards, his crypto, his.
Right. But the thing is, we're trying to stake, or we're trying to reduce inflation in LP and stuff in order to get people to remove liquidity. So it's just, he is kind of, whoever is selling is a problem.
I'm glad you made that point of like, it is his coins and like his yield and everything. The idea of game theory as like proposed by John Nash is like, if people can work together in order to all win more.
Sure.
And it's not just winners and losers. And so if the OA eats up 4% of like whatever 10% yield there is on Pulse validating, then that could easily drive the price up and like make it more valuable for everybody who's validating. So that's a pretty good example of like of game theory that would be a net positive.
And if the value was higher, potentially you could say if they were dumping it, they would dump less because they wouldn't need as much.
They'd be able to
because the
dump
price
at
is
a
higher.
higher USD price.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but it also pulls up the value of everything else through Hart's law. And it also burns more PulseX because the price of Pulse is higher, and so that has pulled up the price of PulseX. And so, so now, well, I guess you're not really burning more PulseX in that case. You're burning more expensive PulseX. But green candles are the best marketing. That brings in more people to chase the green candles, which increases the volume, which does burn more PulseX, which does increase the value of Pulse, which increases the value of PulseX, and these kind of positive feedback loops start occurring. These force multipliers.
Okay, Larry, you getting out of here?
I'm out of here, and
I
I will see.
ahead.
I got class tonight. So.
Okay.
All right, good seeing you, Larry.
Yep. Take care.
Yeah, we'll just finish this list and then we'll dial the show down.
Yeah.
So let's see. We said the number 5 SAC wallet buys again.
Oh yeah.
So you mean like the Pulse SAC wallet or the give me a little more background on this. What do you mean here?
Yeah, like we saw multiple millions of dollars like bought of like the RH core tokens from the funds that had been sacrificed for Pulse and PulseX, and like went into stable coins and then like bought ETH, and like some like I think $10 or $20 million of that has already bought Hex and Pulse and PulseX and Inc. So if we started to see that again, you saw about for every dollar that the OA spent, another dollar went chasing it. And so if the OA buys last time $20 million, like $20 million of other money comes in to buy, you could potentially see over, I mean, I don't know what the SAC funds are at now, but I think it's at $300 or $400 million worth of ETH. So you could see, you could see over $500 million of buy pressure, maybe even up to $1 billion of buy pressure come into the core tokens, which again are going to force multiply based on the AMM constant product formula that moves the price as a function of a square whenever you have a buy on one side of a two-sided pair. So the basic idea there is like that would asymmetrically move the price up in like a parabola.
Okay. We got number 6, the ink inflation lowered again. So how does that, how would it get lowered?
So ink inflation went from 1 per second to 1/10 of 1 per second. And then that was like a signal for people to pull their liquidity out of the farms so that Hart's Law can like make the price of stuff go up easier. And I successfully predicted 2 days before the ink inflation dropped in half again. I predicted that before it happened. So that's why I got the courage to make 14 more predictions here.
All right, there we go. We got number 7. We got good old Richard Hart live streaming again. I do believe he will be coming back.
Again.
It just seemed like he kind of enjoyed it. You know, it was his way to be with the community, and him, along with me, along with a lot of people, you know, the community is like the biggest asset to everything that we're doing. And that's, you know, another reason why we're here having this stream to, you know, help the community.
Yep.
We got number 8, the Richard Hart wallet sack. What is that? Do we know Richard's wallet? Or
So like a MetaMask replacement is something that could be the next invention from Richard Hart that has the sacrifice associated with it. And like when PulseChain and PulseX had hundreds of millions of dollars of hex sacrificed to it that caused the hex price to finish doing its 10,000x. And so that's why another sacrifice event, no matter what people were sacrificing for, would be another bullish event for people who choose to hold on to their tokens and they become more scarce.
Yeah, he did mention that he wanted to have a wallet. He wanted a wallet and he wanted a stable coin. And as far as I know, when Richard says something, he does it. So, I mean, well, I guess we'll see. Huh? He said he had a few tricks left up his sleeve. So let's see. Number 9, new farm pairs again. You're talking early on when we had all those pairs, and then he took them off.
Yeah.
I haven't looked in a while to see what the pairs are, but I guess there's just like a limited number amount.
Yeah, there's not like any PRC 20 copies other than Hex that are like incentivized. So,
and then if somebody wanted to go play with those, where would you recommend if they wanted to do farming?
Oh, you just wait and see if like the farming pairs get updated to like, you know, Pepe versus Pepe and stuff like that. But that would be bullish because it would incentivize people to bridge their liquidity over, and it would give access to the P copies, access to the liquidity on the Ethereum chain of like the ETH that's paired with the E copy or like the E version. So,
but like something like on like 9mm, can't you go provide liquidity?
But you're not earning ink.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Let's see. Number 10, spin the airdrops on Hex again, like Hedron and PDAI. Okay.
Yeah.
So
dump those shit coins for the real thing.
Are these new airdrops, or you're just saying the Hedron that you're getting, just start putting it into Hex?
The OA has already done that.
Okay.
But not recently.
Right. Okay. Number 11, the CEX listing.
Binance, Coinbase, Kraken.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, we've come this far without it, huh?
Right.
And who's to say we even need it? It's just, I like to think, the cream rises to the top and, people are slowly finding the cream.
Yep.
Cream being PulseChain, PulseChain.com. Let's see, number 12, the PulseX limit orders. So we talked about that earlier.
Yeah, that could, out of all the things on the list, that could actually be bearish. But
Okay.
Hard to say. Like, it makes it easier for people to sell at a certain price, so they don't have to be there. But maybe that's better for people's mental health, and maybe that brings more people to want to use it. So I don't know. Maybe that's just cope. Maybe that's in fact a bearish thing that we won't see until the top or after the top.
All right. Number 13, we got PulseX swaps on Ethereum. The fees burn PulseX.
Yeah. So like, Uniswap is on multiple chains. Why can't PulseX be on multiple chains?
That's true. Something for maybe Richard to consider. And then we got, last but not least, number 14, the Space Rock NFT. So are we talking about the Hex.com diamond?
Right.
Okay. And what about, to make an NFT for it?
Yeah, he said he was going to do that someday.
Okay. And I'm guessing he'll do that on PulseChain.
We'd hope.
Well, cool, man. We, appreciate you coming in. Any closing words? Where can people find you at? I got you here on the...
Yeah. Well, check out my Pulse domains, Mati.Pls.fyi, to see all my links.
All right. And you can find me there at the bottom there, Taurus Table Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to stay one pulse ahead. See you next time.
How big is your sack on PulseChain? How big is your sack? Heavy sack, heavy sack. How big is your sack on PulseChain? How big is your sack? Heavy sack, heavy sack. I was looking for a chain, something new, decentralized, either new. Stacking PLS6, liquidity on the decks. Somebody help me. My sack is so heavy. Get some Spark Swap, get the Dex Vaults, get the GOAT token, Legion Protocol, get some P-Dye, get some P-Drip, get some Teddy Bear, get some P-Hex. You know we here for the 100X. Put your heart always with the Gucci bags. I asked you once, I asked you twice. How big is your sack on PulseChain? How big is your sack? Heavy sack, heavy sack. How big is your sack on PulseChain? How big is your sack? Heavy sack, heavy sack. It's both a blessing and a curse having a sack this big.
My sanctuary.
PulseChain.com, awesome. It's got higher throughput, it's deflationary, it burns 25% or more of the fees. There's no inflation, it never mints new coins.
How big is your sack?
It's gonna be the world's largest free airdrop. So people love free money,
How big is your sack?
and they don't like the high fees, and this addresses all those issues. It's really cool.
How big is your sack?
Could Pulse do the same 10,000x that Hex did? Yes, it could.
How big is your sack?
The likelihood of that event? I don't know.
How big is your sack?
I got a few tricks up my sleeve. I got some more cool shit coming.